Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome once again to the Secrets of the High Demand Coach podcast. And I am here with yet an unbelievably high demand coach. That is the one, the only Daniel Marcos. Now, he is the co-founder and CEO of Growth Institute, the leading online executive education company for C-level executives at fast-growing firms. It has over 55,000 members from 11,000 companies across 70 countries. And Daniel is a keynote speaker. He's a columnist for Inc. magazine and a CEO coach with a mission to help 1 million entrepreneurs to scale their impact and reduce drama in the process. And so, Daniel, I'm so excited to have you here. I'm just fascinated by what you guys have built over at Growth Institute and can't wait to dive into that. But I want to hear rewind just for a second to start us off here. What's your story? How did you end up getting into the coaching consulting world, and why did you ultimately choose to make the leap and found Growth Institute?
Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate that. And thank you very much for the invitation. And by the way, I'm saying hi from Tampa, sunny Tampa. I'm here to do a keynote that I did this morning. And so sorry for the bed and everything on the back. So everything started 25 years ago. I'm 51 today. I was around 25 when I started the first fintech company in Mexico. Finanzas Web. We're the first one to put financial information online in the internet. And we very early partnered with an Argentinian and a Brazilian entrepreneur. We grouped under the Argentinian brand that was really the acquirer. And the three of us, we went to JP Morgan, raised $53 million. And then off to the races, we built a 1,200 people company, operation 9 countries, and then sold it to Santander, almost at the valuation of a unicorn back in 1999 and 2000. So it was a huge success back then, and that kind of put me in a different seat as an entrepreneur. I started at 25, I left at 29. 2 years after we sold it, I stayed for 2 years running a division and then left. And that really help us what it was fast growth and all the drama and everything that happens with fast growth. And of course, I had to learn from the best. So I started reaching out to the best business thought leaders all over the world. And I met a lot of the people that today are my faculty at the Growth Institute. After that, I thought I knew everything. I drank my own Kool-Aid of success. I believed what it was on the magazines. And I came to the US, built a mortgage bank, and I had a subprime mortgage bank to finance homes for undocumented Hispanics in 2007. And you have to imagine what happened. It was not pretty. So it was really, really bad. I lost all the money that I had built on the first one, and then end up with over $1 million in debt. It was bad. It was really, really bad. So I got a lot of calls from people back then. And one of them was Vern Harnish, the author of Scaling Up and founder of EO. That I studied with Vern in the past. I took a program with him called Birthing of Giants at MIT. And Vern called me and said, "Hey, what are you going to do?" And I was depressed and I cried on the call. I was not a good spot in my life. And he said, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "I need to go back to Mexico to get a job." And I remember in the 2008, the US was in pretty bad shape. So me as a foreigner, get a work visa and everything else was tough. So I said, "I'm going to go back to Mexico and get a job just to put food on the table for my kids and my wife." And Vern said, no, become a coach. And I was like, "No, you're crazy. I cannot even be an entrepreneur myself. I don't trust myself to be an entrepreneur."
Wow.
And you need to coach other entrepreneurs. And he said, "That's precisely why. Because you went through such a hard process that you have to make sure it does happen again. So start coaching other CEOs so it does happen again." And I said, "Vern, I'm sorry, I can't. I need really to get a job." And he asked me after that, he said, "So how are you going to pay the $1 million that you own?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Like the salary that I was going to get was to put food on the table, but I couldn't pay $1 million of debt and interest. So he said, "Why don't you coach on the weekends? And with that money, you pay your debt." I said, "Sounds great." So I started coaching on the weekends. And 6 months into it, I was making more money on the weekends than during the week on my job. So I resigned to my job, become a CEO coach. And I've been coaching CEOs all over the world for 15 years now. And then 4 years after this, I had paid my $1 million plus interest. I was living a very comfortable life. I was doing great. but I was traveling like 250 nights away from home, giving coaching and consulting. And then my wife got pregnant again, or we wanted to have another baby, our second child. And my wife said, okay, great. So when are you going to stop traveling? And I was like, what do you mean? That's what I do. And she was like, you want to be a dad or you want to be a consultant? You cannot do both. So I said, okay, great. So I went to Vern and said, Vern, I'm done. I'm resigning. And he was like, how are you resigning? Like, you're making more money than the coach in New York. I was in Latin America, coaching in Mexico and Guatemala and El Salvador and all that, and making more money than the average coach all over the world. And he said, what are you going to do? And I was like, I need to do something different because I want to be a father and have a family. And I love what I do, so I'm going to bring it online. So he said, okay, do it in Spanish, and let's see what happens, and then we'll decide if we do it in English. And I started bringing Scaling Up in Spanish, and it was a huge success. And Vern got super excited, so okay, let's do it in English, and let's partner. So Vern and I co-founded Growth Institute around 12 years ago, and we've been helping a lot of companies implement not just Scaling Up, many other methodologies. After Vern, we signed up Top Grading and Great Game of Business and Salim Ismail with EXO, Marshall Goldsmith, Conscious Capitalism, Rashi Soda. We have over 120 faculty, including Tom Peters and the rest. It's been a great ride and a lot of fun.
Wow. So you've got a star-studded cast in the business, especially in the coaching world. How do you get that many people who are arguably competitors? How do you get all of them working together to help serve the C-suite executives in your program?
So we believe that cooperation is better than competition. So we say, hey, we help you come to our community and promote your brand, your content, and what you teach. And we really believe it goes well. We believe scaling up, it's a very important part, but it's not everything. As an example, in scaling up, we have a decision of people. And one of the biggest problems we see in people is top grading, how to hire. So we called Brad Smart of Top Grading and said, hey, let's build a class on how to hire, because we could not fix a team if you don't have good leaders.
Right.
So you have to start from hiring them. Then we called Marshall Goldsmith and said, hey, now we have all these leaders. They need to be better leaders. We're going to class with you. We have a class with Salim Ismail as an example from exponential organizations. And we went to Salim and said, great, now that you implement Scaling Up, now you need all this innovation and technology and everything on the top. Why don't we promote EXO as the next level? And that's the way we put it together. We believe you need a village of gurus to grow your company, and our job is to build that village. So that's why we invite all kinds of thought leaders to our platform to all collaborate and code together. And we really give a platform for the CEOs to choose what's the best methodology and how to put it together.
Yeah, I love that. So I've got this question for you, and I think of all the guests I've had on you, the best one to kind of lay it out for us. But one of the transitions that a lot of my clients who are scaling up are going through are moving from what I would call a leadership team to an executive team.
Yes.
There's a different type of person, and the burning question, I just got off a call with someone who's asking the same thing, is, are my people going to make it, right? Are they going to be able to take a step up? What's the difference? So just lay this out for us. What's the difference between like a high caliber executive and kind of the leaders that we tend to have around, especially early in that scaling and growing phase?
So I'm going to take a little bit of time to answer, because not a simple conversation.
No.
When you start a business, you hire generalists, and then you have to go to specialists. And then you hire a generalist that it's able to do everything. They kind of start growing because you trust them. You send them things and they start catching them. But then you need a specialist that is really, really good doing something, and that person does have the capability. So that's one. Two, you usually hire people that start with you very early as an executive, and then becomes a manager, and then a CEO or a leader or a VP. And then we don't have the tools to be on the C-suite. They're very good at doing something. They have all the great attitude, but they have no idea how to run a P&L, how to hire, how to fire, how to negotiate, a lot of tools that you need to be on the C-suite. So whenever you transition, and by the way, I call stage 2 to stage 3, and exactly what you are mentioning, because we have like 5 stages of companies, And what you're mentioning is exactly going from stage 2 to a stage 3.
Yeah.
So I really believe that once you go through that process, you're going to have to put your team in 3 different buckets. One bucket is the one that you tell them what they need to do, how they need to grow, and they have the ability to be able to learn that and then become that person. The second one is ones that have the attitude, but don't know how to do it. And you have to handhold them on the process and help them develop to get to that. And a third that they just don't have the capabilities to do it or the capacity to do it. And you have to let them go or put them in a different position and stay in the company. I explained that whenever you have let's say a 2-year-old kid, you give them Gerber as a food. And then when they're 16, you still give them Gerber and say like, no, they don't like Gerber. Like, yeah, but the Gerber, still an amazing food. It's just not the right fit for a 15-year-old kid, right? So how many Gerbers do you have in your company? How many people do you have that they were amazing on, let's say, stage 2, and now you're on stage 3 and they just don't fit? So it's really 3 things. But let me do a little bit more of a deep dive on this. For me, the biggest issue of scaling is not having enough capable leaders to be able to execute. And here's when I go to a company and they say, I want to be $100 million company. And I was like, yeah, but I understand the dream, but today you run like a $5 million company or like a $10 million company. And indeed, you're running like a $10 million team and your company's already doing 12 or 13 million. And that's why you have all this drama, because your mindset, your tools, everything's at 10 million and you're already doing 13. And that's why you have all this drama and problem. Imagine you're driving a car 120 miles at the 2nd speed or 3rd speed. You have to change the gear and go to the next level. So the biggest issue is not building enough capable leaders to become that. And here's the last thing that I say. It's not about you. It's about your team. Whenever you go to stage 3, I have a lot of CEOs that said, I built a great company. You did not. You built a great team, and that team built a great company on the back. So that's kind of where I see it. It's not a one rule fits all, but you have to work one-on-one with your team and kind of put them on those 3 buckets and then execute with them differently.
Yeah. And I love that bucket. So if we kind of go back through this, what are some indications that you've got some bucket 1 folks? Like, how do you know that when you give them the opportunity to step up, that they will?
So the way I do it is I build an org chart. So first I said, okay, where's the company going to be in the next 3 years? So I understand the KPIs and targets and kind of make a dream of the company in the next 3 years. And then I write a functional org chart of the company in 3 years from now for that. See, if imagine I say I'm going to do, today you're doing 10 million, I'm going to do 20 million in 3 years. Then I write an org chart for a company doing 20. And then I write job scorecards of each of the positions. So I go to the leader and say, hey, in the future, when we're 20, we need that position to be filled with a leader with those capabilities. Do you want to be in that position? Oh, yes, I want to be in that position. They immediately, now that they see the dream, they could sign up. And I say, great, that leader needs to have these capabilities. And you just have these capabilities. Do you want to be that? Yes. And now you could show them a gap of skills and then said, hey, that's where you want to be. Yeah. You want to get them? And they immediately, their first group said, yes, I want to be there. And they usually ask you for budget or time or something for them to develop an ideas. So that's the way I do it. I try to paint the picture. Even just give your team learning and development like that and say, hey, I bought a new course. Here it is. Go and take it. They will never take it. They need to have the buy-in mindset that they want to be there, and they need to understand the why. Yeah.
I think what folks who have not been through this process would probably be surprised by is how many people say, no, that's actually not what I want. And when you're clear about it, right? When you're clear on, hey, this is the change that would have to make. There are a lot of folks on your team who they're pretty happy with, where they are. It may mean there's some adjustment that's going to come, but they know that they're going to be happier, down a level or 2 where they can do what they love to do. And it always catches me a little off guard as I'm going through is how quickly folks can recognize that about themselves. Not everyone, right? But a lot of folks can. And so why is it why is it that particularly that founder CEO type feels the need to figure all that out on their own, right? That they don't necessarily do the exercise like you just talked about.
So the entrepreneur is used to doing everything, and they believe they still have to do everything. And I said, you have to let go. If you're a father, Scott, you have kids?
Mm-hmm. 3, yeah.
So my kids is my most precious thing. And when they started to walk, I knew they were going to fall and hit their head sometimes, and it's part of the game. So with your team, you have to do the same thing. You have to kind of say, hey, you want to learn how to grow? You kind of guide them, coach them a little bit, but say, go and walk and stumble, right? And fall. So you have to be able to do that. And in business, it's expensive and it's hard. I tell leaders, sometimes you have to decide what's more important, losing a client or losing an employee. If an employee is doing a mistake with a client, you have to stop and say, okay, I could get in and save the client, but most likely I'm going to lose the employee. Or I'm going to let the employee kill the client, and then I will gain an employee that is really going to be able to execute correctly, or I'm going to gain a leader. And you're going to have to let them make mistakes sometimes. It's hard and expensive, but you're going to have to let them.
Wow. Yeah, that is such good advice. So you're on a mission to help 1 million CEOs, or entrepreneurs, I'm sorry, to scale their impact. Now, what is it that, if you were to kind of sum it up, and I think you even mentioned this beforehand, but if you were to sum it up, what's the big challenge that they face in trying to do that? Why is it so hard to scale?
So what I'm trying to do is give 1 million entrepreneurs freedom. I've been a slave of my company for many years. And we always said we teach what we need the most. I did it so bad on my first years that I'm trying to compensate for my next years. But reality is, I really believe a CEO needs to do 3 things. First, set a strategy, right? If we're going to go there or there, where we're going to go, blue ocean, whatever. Then make sure you have cash to run operations. You build a strategy, and that strategy needs certain cash. You have to make sure you always have cash to run operations. And then the third is build enough capable leaders for them to run your strategy or execute your strategy. And that's where I spend most of the time. But let me give you an example. The other day, I was seeing an entrepreneur that I was coaching, and he asked an employee to send an email and said, but before you send the email, send it to me so I could see it and improve it. And he rewrote the email completely. And I was like, really mad. Like, this guy was doing $40 million a year, and he was rewriting emails that his employees were going to send. And I was like, why are you doing that? Well, they're terrible writing emails. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But you cannot write the email to everyone, so you have to let it go. And he's like, no, this is really important, blah, blah. So I said, okay, let me do an example. How bad from 0 to 100 he was going to write the email? He said 70%. And I said, and you? 100%. It's going to be perfect. And I was like, great. How many guys do you have in that department? He said, I have 5. And I was great. 5 guys so doing 70%, that's 350. You're just one doing 100, that's 100. So what's better, 350 or 100? He said 350. Well, let them do it. No, but like, he couldn't pass. So you have to build enough capable leaders, and give them the time to do it. And of course, some are going to do it, some are going to fail, and you have to be okay with that some fail, and that's fine. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, so good. All right, so here's a question I like to ask all of my guests. Fascinated to see what your response is here, but what would you say is the biggest secret you wish was not a secret at all? What's that one thing that you wish every entrepreneur listening today knew?
I think I already said it, but thinking that you're going to build a great company. You cannot build a great company on your own. You build a great team, and your team is going to build a great company. So my suggestion is, instead of focusing on building a great company, build a great team. If you have an amazing head of sales, an amazing head of marketing, an amazing head of technology, they will figure out how to build an amazing company. And your company is going to be great. I don't know if you remember the story in Think and Grow Rich of Henry Ford, that his attack, that he's a non-educated man. And this reporter is attacking him that he doesn't know all this information. And the guy said, yes, I agree, but let me tell you what I think is intelligence. I have a box in my office full of buttons. If I push button number 1, the best engineer runs to my office and said, "Sir, how can I help?" And he answers any engineering question that I have. I push button number 2 and I get the best lawyer in the world and answer any legal question that I want. Intelligence is to have this box and have the best people in the world running to your office and solving your problems. That's, for me, intelligence. How can you be the best leader that you get the best team leaders wanting and helping you build your dream? If you do that, golden.
So good. That is so good. So one more question for you, and then I want to make sure that folks know how to get in touch with you, find out more about Growth Institute, and also hear a little bit about your podcast. So before we get there, though, tell us, we're all growing, right? You're still in your own mode as well. So take off the coach, consultant, advisor hat, put on the CEO hat yourself, kind of jump down in the ring with the rest of us again. And what's the next stage of growth look like for you as a leader in your organization?
So up to now, we've been selling courses. And we get a lot of companies that said, "Hey, we need more. We need a 100% solution." Because we sell the independent course and they take some of the courses, but we're not providing a 100% solution. And last year we said, okay, how does it look? How does 100% solution look? And our focus is precisely on building enough capable leaders. That's what we do, really, as a team, but in a class. So, but it's very, very different just to sell a class or sell a program and not give you a full solution to take your team to the next level. So that's what we're doing next year. We've been doing some testing this year in what we call MBD All Access. And it's a company university to help make all the management team be experts on scaling. Need to understand the typical things on how to hire, how to fire, how to negotiate KPIs with team members, how to negotiate supplier contracts. All your contracts are negotiated by your team leaders. They just come to your desk signing. Right. I need them to understand how to negotiate. Yeah. How to hire people, how to fire, how to set direction, how to set priorities, how to understand budgeting and financials. So all the tools that they need to be on the C-suite. And the MBD All Access has a program called C-suite Ready. And our job is to help you have enough capable leaders to be able to be on your C-suite. So if not, they won't be able to do it. But it's not easy going from selling courses to building a solution. And that's where we've been gearing up this year. And next year, we're going to start scaling that.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Now, you're also the host of the Learning Up podcast. Is that right? Where can folks check out your podcast?
So in YouTube, in my channel, or any of the podcast platforms. And Learning Up is everything you have to learn. We always talk about what you have to learn. A little bit of what I said earlier. Who do you have to become? As entrepreneurs, we put all these big objectives, but we never understand who we have to become to do that. What do we have to learn to be able to command a $100 million company? And at Learning Up podcast, we talk about that. What do you have to learn to really be able to go to the next level? That's why it's called Learning Up, because you have to learn to go up to the next level. That's what we do.
That's fantastic. And so Learning Up can be found on all the major platforms. Go check it out. Also, growthinstitute.com, is that right? Is the courses and learning platform. Had a chance to browse around it myself, and it's phenomenal. It's just, I have not seen a site that has that much depth of resource on it all in one place. It's really remarkable. So head on over to growthinstitute.com. We will add that link to the show notes as well, so you can get there easily. Don't do it while you're driving. And so, Daniel, thank you so much for being here. It was just an honor and privilege having you on. So much gold in this conversation. I know for me, I'm going to go back and listen to it again, because there's just so much there. You can't get it the first time. So yeah, if you're listening, rewind, do it again. You're going to catch so many things you missed the first time through. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who are listening, your time and attention mean the absolute world to us. I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I know I did, and I cannot wait to see you next time. Take care.